Ready as I'll ever be.
Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Good day, sister. Oh, where'd you go? I lost you. Where'd Bev go? Okay, well, here we are. Hopefully she'll come back. Um, Anywho, well, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Here she comes. Let me bring her in. Kind of the way our morning is starting. A little off, and it's okay. So this is where we're at. She's like, hey y'all, gotta go. See ya.
That's really not what happened. It was telling me that it was recording on the bottom of the screen, and I tried to hit the record button or say that, yeah, okay, I know it's being recorded.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then this another screen popped up, and then I tried to clear that screen off, and it shut the whole thing off. I was like, what the heck? But to be honest with you, I don't know where you started at, but this is kind of how things have been. This week's been a very, um, for me, and I had she's like a soul sister, another soul sister to me. But it's like she came in yesterday, we had seen each other, and she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, this week." And I said, "Oh my God, I've been like crying on and off almost all week. Like I've had a lot of emotions coming to the surface, a lot of stuff coming out. And I know that it's like I've had an asking within inside of myself for a shift. And I know that I'm being pulled in a certain direction. And then she tells me, because I'm telling her this stuff, and she says, I have been crying nonstop, or, like crying a lot. She says, I don't ever do that. I never cry at work. And then she said, that's been happening. It's a path of least resistance. And I feel like that's kind of where maybe where we're at in the timeline right now. If you want to even label it a timeline, it just feels like a lot of people are going through a lot of shift, and maybe some of them can't handle a lot of stuff. So maybe it's not just handling our own stuff. Maybe that release is handling it for a lot of other people too. So it's like, don't try to stifle your tears or your emotions. It's like I keep talking to my grandkids and stuff, write your emotions down in a notebook and then rip up the piece of paper afterwards. Or like it's finding ways for us to explore how can we, because we can't always say what we want to say in conversations with people. So making sure that we keep this throat area open. And that's like, for me, it's like humming, singing, um, creativity, reading, talking, these kind of conversations like you and I have in our groups and all that kind of stuff, those help with the flow of all that stuff too. And it's just it's honoring that space. And if you can't get into meditation, guess what? Maybe it's the energies. Don't beat yourself up. Just take it easy and do what you can do. Be pissed off and put your feet in the dirt for 5 minutes. It kind of helps sometimes. I'm just saying, I'll just throw all kinds of stuff out because this is how the week is.
Or go back to sleep because that's what I had to do. I'm just saying.
And I've been doing a lot of that too. To the point where falling asleep early, not wanting to be awake. Just there's been a lot of denseness, and then we haven't. Mercury goes into retrograde, I think
Tomorrow.
Monday, which will be for the yeah, which will be for the most of April. But it's not a bad thing, guys. If you guys listen to this stuff and then kind of, if you don't know what that means, go look it up. You go do your own research. I'm not here to give you all the information. You got to do your own research and stuff, and that's how you find your passions. But do your research and see how it affects you, because I have noticed how things have affected me, and it's there's so many different ways to explore and express ourselves. One of the ways, I'm telling you, I've been getting a little bit upset with family, and that's not an easy situation to handle. But instead of having the words, even though I'm feeling all these emotions inside, we're back to that same thing, expressing ourselves. I'm listening to music this morning to sing and stuff like that to open up, because I'm like, man, you guys are not going to get the best fucking me today. You're just going to get me today. And it's like, I thought, man, I should probably call Amy and message her or something and say, hey, we probably shouldn't do this. It doesn't look good. But on the other side of that, this is opening up my throat chakra. So this is me being able to express myself with company that's non-judgmental.
Yeah. This
So,
is our
which I
therapy
appreciate.
session, Bev. Come on now.
It is. I know. It really is. It is. And it's just not having time, and I hear people talking. It's like, it's take the time for yourself. This is my soul telling me, take the time for yourself, because I'm not doing it either. I'm not giving myself a downtime day or any downtime. It's ridiculous, really. It's ridiculous when I see how short my fuse can become, because no longer am my cup's not full right now. It's not even half full right now. Although energetically, I could say I'm spiritually, I'm full. But right now I feel depleted and I haven't been honoring myself. And this is my reward.
We're gonna sit in our shit.
That's right. And I keep telling myself I have a fulfilling schedule. I have a fulfilling life. And it makes me chuckle.
Well, I'm kind of right there with you, just so you know. I've talked about it before, but as a recap, when a full moon comes or a new moon, I know the energy of it 3 days before. So typically, the energy of a full moon or new moon is 3 days before. Then we have the day of, and then 3 days after, still in the energy. Without looking at a calendar, I can tell you a full moon or a new moon's coming because I don't sleep. There's that. So, full moon for 3 days, 3 nights. I think I got maybe 3 hours of sleep, maybe. And however, still feeling normal as can be on my day, during my day, full of energy, like like I got a whole night's rest. Like, so that's the way I operate typically during a full moon. Then, when you're coming out of that, then there's a crash. And sometimes I'm so overly tired by then that I don't sleep, right? So it's like a recovery period. And I took so I don't, it's probably a combination of that. And Thursday night, I took a sleep supplement. And Friday, I was a complete bitch, not gonna lie. And I have not been like that in a very, very, very long time. And with that, I show up to work and it was just one thing after another coming at me. And, you just feel like you're being attacked. And so when somebody feels like they're being attacked, what do? We get defensive, we lash back. So that was happening. And my boss left the building. She had to leave. She had to go do something. And she called me and she said, she's so nice, so polite. She says, if you need to go home and get some more rest, it's okay. And I said, listen, just be real. You're being a bitch. You need to leave. But I did leave a little bit later. I did leave. I went home, and that's when I say when I went back to sleep. So I went and ate a late lunch, and I probably was snoring or something, because when I woke up, my throat was dry and sore a little bit. So, and then I had to go back to work because we had an evening piece, and I felt a whole lot better. So sometimes you just need to go back to sleep. And that's what Esther Abraham Hicks talks about. If things are rocky and not going well, go back to sleep. Just go take a nap. Do something different, right? So I'm feeling you about, I just want to hit, like, we went from full moon last week to Mercury retrograde starting, well, probably in the energy of it. It starts April 1st, April Fool's Day. How much that's comical in itself. And then April 8th is the eclipse. And I just think the energy of all of that happening all at once in the same, within a very close range, is I think it's just affecting a lot of people. I too was emotional. Friday, I too was emotional. Let me finish what I was saying. But Friday, one of the other girls from work, she said that she was sitting at home, and she had her dog next to her all curled up, and she said, her and I are fun and joke with each other and everything. And she said, I almost sent you a picture of my dog next to me and said, I can't come in today, I'm staying home. And I said, you know what? If you would have done that, I probably would have cried. Because that's how far I was on that line of just losing my, like, I was already being a bitch, but I was like ready to lose my shit. Man, I was just like, it was so bizarre. But one thing I want to say though is we talk about the words I am, and anything after that is a like an affirmation of the self, right? I am angry, I am sad, I am whatever. Whereas if we, it's really not an I am this, it's a I feel angry, I feel upset, I feel emotional, I feel. So switching that up, because the I am is declaring it and owning it and saying this is hi, just like me saying I was a bitch. And that day I said, I'm being a bitch. So I was kind of declaring that, right? Instead of just saying, I feel bitchy, I feel angry, I feel, but when we step into the feeling of it, when we redirect how we're uh, uh, experiencing the emotion, when we say, I feel, it's kind of given us an opportunity to look at it and sit with it and um, uh, really recognize, okay, I'm feeling this way. This doesn't mean I am, it's just I feel. So, and also I can feel when I'm saying it, when I'm saying I am, it's like a declaration. But when I say I feel, I kind of soften even my body language shifts. So it kind of softens that to go, oh, yeah, I'm just feeling this way right now. It doesn't mean this is what I am. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
It actually makes perfect sense. It's just a matter of practice, really, because we've been in a practice of saying I am stuff, almost like claiming things,
Yeah.
you know, just with that app. That's just how you had stated it too. It's refreshing to know that you're going through these things. And I feel like people kind of need us to go through these things too, because they need to know that fuck, I'm not alone, and this shit gets kind of heavy sometimes. And I was in the same space as you emotionally, um, bitchy. I was bitchy as well, not just crying and stuff, bitchy, but it's like I'm short fuse. I zero tolerance. I was at a family function yesterday, and I didn't like one of the adults were arguing with one of the kids, and I felt like kind of picking, and I just handed over the baby and told him all goodbye and left.
Yeah.
I just don't feel from my perspective, and I love my family very much, but I can't stay in that environment anymore. I can't, not right now, and that's the boundary. And when I say I can't do it, I create a boundary for that until I can do it again, because I'm not in a space that I have the energy to be that powerful booming energy for everybody else. I can only do it for myself right now. So right now I'm trying to figure out how to do for myself. And I think that's where a lot of people are at. You just don't know how to take that time. I can't make you take the time. No, nobody can make me take the time. I'll get up and I'll be like, okay, I need to have a day today. Okay, well, okay, clients, cancel. Got my eyes closed and thinking, cancel, cancel, cancel. Yeah, it doesn't work that way, guys. Sometimes it does happen, but it doesn't really work that way. And that's where, when we're catching ourselves in those spaces, honor yourself. Pay attention right then. If you're trying to convince yourself to go do something, maybe you should go do it. It's just all these things, and it's just so many different ways that we can honor ourselves. Just like for me, if there's a client that I just don't feel comfortable seeing, then don't see that client. You know what I mean? It's really that simple, but we got into positions where we force ourselves to go do things anyways, because we were forced to go do things. I don't care if you don't want to go to church today. It's Sunday. We're going to church. I'm just using that as an example. It's not good or bad. It just was another thing that was added to the table. I sent something to my kids recently, talking about how when the kids go to school, when their kids go to school, they're basically working all day long. And then when you have them come home and you're having them do all this other stuff, you're extending their work. It doesn't make sense when you put it into that kind of perspective. It really doesn't. But we have these expectations, or even expectations for the child to be perfect. But when you look around the environment's not perfect. How can you have expectations of a child to be perfect when you're not perfect? And it's okay. You don't have to be perfect, but they don't have to be perfect either. They don't have to pick up the slack where we didn't make it. Or we talked about this before, do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work, because we only do what we see. That's our tools. And if you want to do something different, you got to find new tools. You do. And if you don't know, you ask from within, because within you're going to receive all kinds of information that is going to guide you to who knows what. Because I don't have the answers. I don't. I know that I do differently with my grandchildren than I did with my children. and it's better than it was before. But is it perfect? I don't know. I have no clue. I just know that it feels better mostly than it did before.
And it's just you showing up in your best self now. You showed up in your best
Right.
self then also with your kids as they were younger. And
True.
same with me. In any given moment, we're showing up in our best self. And even us, my best self on Friday was being a bitch. Like I could not, I knew it was a total awareness. I knew it. I knew I was being cranky and irritable and snippy and I'm I went in the bathroom and I was like, "What is your problem, sister? Seriously." Went right back in. Like for whatever reason, I could not like shift until I
Do you think sometimes we just kind of maybe like being in that experience for a little bit? You know, it doesn't feel good, but it's like it's a familiar, right? I don't know, because it's like I question myself when I get into these spaces, when I let it go too long. I'm like, am I just fucking enjoying where I'm at right this second? Am I enjoying this bullshit right now? You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, but I honestly feel like maybe sometimes we do because it's a familiar. When we're in the middle of so much seems like that's shifting and changing, that sometimes we kind of gravitate back to the old stuff. And of course, it was around, like you said, it was around the full moon for releasing and stuff like that. And this one was pretty powerful. And for me, I just feel like it's like a snake. We're shedding our skins because we're getting ready to go into something else. And I've been reminded by a few people that when we start going through these things, when I have these emotional things on the other side of that, there's a huge shift, like every single time. So it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, default, it's our default mechanism, default programming, default behavior. Um, and again, I don't know if it was something because I'd taken this supplement like two other times and I didn't have this kind of effect. So I'm not sure if it's just a combination of multiple things. And I was tired and irritable. So, and I haven't had a cycle in 8 years, menstrual cycle. So I don't keep track of that stuff. I just mainly, my awareness is around the moon typically. So I know it's just a combination of things that happened for me, but the whole idea is I knew it. That was one thing, right? Now back in the day, I wouldn't have cared. I would have just went through the entire day and just would have been mean actually. And I wouldn't have cared. And I would have pushed through, right? Having to stay in it and push through and show up for the day and do what I said I was going to do and all these things. But this time, as I knew what I was doing. I knew how I was feeling, and I knew I needed to do something different. And and again, it was my boss actually giving me permission. She's like, "Listen, you need to go home and get some rest." So, um, yeah, I still have those defaults. I still have, maybe it is that familiarity of what used to be and it still pops up. I know things like that still pop up. So similar to what you're saying is like, um, when we're ready to make a shift, we have to go through something and then get to the other side of it. Right. So, um, for me, as far I think is just heightened, even a heightened awareness,
Yeah.
and not waiting for somebody else to give me permission to do something for myself, I think is still something obviously I may be still working on. So for the most part, I'm good about it. But to be able to leave work, I mean, how many bosses out there say, you know what, you, you need to go home and get some rest? not doing so good today. Why don't you go home and get some rest? There's not very many. Um, well, there probably are, just I'm not aware of them. So, but to have a boss who would do that is pretty amazing. So, and then allowing myself to take her up on it. Because I'm not showing up. I mean, I was showing up in my best self, but I also know I could shift the way I was showing up. And so I couldn't do it while in that environment. And it wasn't that the environment was bad, is my energy that was there, and the energy that I have is emanating out and then attracting things. And that was the other piece. Like, I don't want to keep attracting these people are complaining to me and do insane. And I was just like, I need to leave. I need to go somewhere basically in solitude, right? And just be with me and close my eyes and let myself rest. That's what I needed. And that's what worked.
You know, I find it interesting that we're even having this conversation. I mean, it's not interesting because I needed to have this conversation. There's probably more stuff. I don't know if we'll get everything on video that we'll talk about because some of it gets like kind of personal. But I guess personal stuff is probably good because people recognize that they're going through their own shit too. Even like I have like she's like an adopted daughter. She sent me a message yesterday. She says, I don't like, are the energies weird to you right now? She says, I feel like I just need to go be by myself, be one with myself. And I said, it's exactly what's being called for right now. That's exactly what's needed right now. It's not for us to keep going outside of ourselves. And I'm kind of struggling a little bit here at the house, just in relationship wise, because there's a familiar relationship between two other people that I'm not for sure I'm all 100% on board with, which is none of my fucking business. But on the other side of that, I'm not, I kind of struggle with that a little bit. And it's like, I don't want to put any labels on anything. It just, I guess my ego wants to say, well, that's because there's something there, or there's a communication that needs to happen between those two people. I don't know. It just seems like I don't know. I have mixed emotions and all that stuff. So it's like so I've got a little bit of that kind of irritating me since yesterday. But it's like I have a tendency to replay things over and over in my head, and that's what we do. We replay things over and over in our head, and then we grab another piece. We grab another piece from 6 years ago, and we kind of put that into that. Well, that because yeah, oh yeah, that happened too. And then it starts going around, and the story starts becoming this huge story. It was just a couple of pages, and now it's turned into a chapter. And next thing you know, it's a fucking book. And I'm saying the F word a lot today because that's kind of how I feel today.
Right.
But this is me. This is me on my off days. You're welcome, because this is how it is. At least I'm not crying right now, not yet. So give me time. Yeah. But it's just, you go through these processes and you start questioning a lot of things. And it's like it brings up a lot of then all the other doubts that were ever there in that relationship come up. And it's like it's going through that process, but it's recognizing that doesn't define me. And there's no end of the world right there. I heard a person yesterday saying, the 2 minute rule, she says. I don't know if you already watched this. I haven't watched the whole video yet, but she's a psychic, um and I think she channels and stuff like that too. But she was saying the 2 second or 2 minute rule. Stop for a second and think, will I die from this in 2 minutes? In the next 2 minutes, am I going to die from this? And almost immediately, and I've done this a few times now, it's just being in practice. It's just like you saying, I feel instead of saying I am. Because I'm not going to claim something. I'm not going to title something, but I like the way when you said I feel. And so it's like the same thing. As soon as I started going through that process and feeling that, like all the adrenaline and all that fight or flight started to come up, and it stops. So when you're in a hurry to get to a job and that fight or flight starting to come up, it's asking yourself, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? It's not. So it doesn't matter. Like we get so caught up in being on time or being perfect or being all these things. And it's like be in the flow, which I've been in more of a practice, which feels great, right? And then when we dip into these moments, it feels pretty crappy. It feels like I got poop all over my shoes. Sometimes it's pretty stinky. I mean, let's just face it, let's be real. It's kind of gets to those moments. but then it's like I noticed during this week. So here's the examples, right? You've talked about before getting your notebook and writing down things to appreciate, things that you did that was good that day. Gratitude. Do a gratitude journal, and that's it, right? But to sit in that space and recognize, I love how spirit worked out. Even though I was in this mood of a space, there was a particular person that came in on Thursday that totally shifted my mood. There was a particular person that came in Saturday that helped ground me. They helped to ground me. You helped to ground me. Not that I'm putting all that, I want you to have to do this job all the time, but the conversations help to ground me. It helps me to process things. It helps me not to be so up in the head. And now I can actually rest down into the feet a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I like, I like to watch Hallmark shows, just saying. And interesting enough, last night, um, there was one on where this lady was making blessing bracelets, and it
Huh.
had four kind of like pearl like things on it, and each one, it would, you wear it and then give you an opportunity to stop, and for each of those beads or whatever they were, you would say a blessing or say something you feel blessed about or gratitude. And it was just, every once in a while needing those reminders of just stop and name 2, 3, 4 things that you're grateful for, or that you are blessed with, or that you're happy is in your life, or right. It just take a moment each day to do that, whether you do it in the morning or in the evening or throughout the day. Just stop every once in a while. And in the beginning of it, she was doing it mainly when things were really hard, like really hard. She would just stop and say something she was, grateful for, felt blessed with. And then, of course, as the movie progressed and there was more joy in that gratitude that she was expressing. And it was in the beginning, she was like kind of reaching for things like, um, when you can't, when you're having a difficult time acknowledging any kind of blessings that are in your life or anything that you're grateful for, you have to reach. You got to reach for it. And maybe that's just thanks for the vehicle I have to drive around town, right? Or get me to my destinations. Thanks for the food that I have in my refrigerator, my cupboards. It may have nothing to do with anybody else in your life. It may have, it might just be like, this is all I can recognize right now. But then the more you do that, the more your brain is operating in such a way to look for more blessings. And then you really start to open up and see how many blessings every single day we actually have and receive. And it just gets easier and easier from there. So
Yeah, you're creating a whole new default, right? Like we were
yeah.
just talking about a little ago. You really do. I was sitting here thinking, thank you for this pencil so I can sit here and write down everything that I don't want to. Thank you for this lighter that I'm going to burn this paper afterward. It's being in those moments, right? Like you said, it's reaching and it becomes a routine or a habit. And then you get to the space where I remember holding Vivi's hand when we were going to sleep. I remember giving Colton an extra long hug, or I remember sitting there writing and then, them grasping the concept. And I remember sitting there listening to how the advice that flows from my grandbabies to other people because of the information they've been receiving.
Yeah.
So it's all those things. But again, don't beat yourself up when you get into these moments, because these moments, there's a lot to be said for them. There's a lot of clearing that's happening. There's a lot of releasing. There's a lot of awareness. There's a lot of, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm creating a new default. This is going to be my new default. I'm going to go, write down everything that I appreciate. It's finding other ways to make yourself feel good. And like we've always talked about, take a walk outside in nature. It's easy. Go sit outside in nature. If you're not able to go walk around, go sit outside and put your feet into some dirt or in the grass or whatever, some potting soil. No, I don't know what's in the potting soil, so probably don't do that. But I'm just saying there's just so many ways. There's so many ways. Go sit in your car and listen to some music, and sing your head off. Go sing in the shower. And there's been quite a few days. So I've taken more showers recently than probably they just benefit me. And I didn't realize I will be in these moments, and then I go in there and take a shower, and it's like I come out feeling better right almost immediately. I feel better, and it's just cleansing. But for some reason, I don't know, it just feels really good to clear your energy with a bath or a shower. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. It's like when your littles come home from school and they're crabby or whatever, have them take a shower. It doesn't matter if they might have to take a shower again later on. Just have them take a shower. Get it, throw some toys in them, give them some frickin' bubbles to play with in the tub or whatever. Give them something to do. So it shifts them. And guess what? When you do that, it shifts you too. Because then it gives you that space where you can breathe for a second and not have to worry about bracing yourself for the energy of your child that's angry coming home from school again.
Yeah. Yeah. So gave you all kinds of tips and tricks on shifting energy. So take a nap,
Yes.
go back to bed, dance, sing, shower, journal, the earth, right? Connecting with the dirt and the earth. Even just if you have plants in your house, just sticking your fingers in the soil or feeling the plant with your fingers. There's a multitude of ways of shifting your energy. And sometimes you might have to try a couple different things before you might feel that shift, but also recognizing that another event happened this past week in the United States. So there's collective energy about that. And then it's presidential election year. And again, with the full moon, the Mercury retrograde, the eclipse, like there's a lot of like heightened energy stuff happening. And really, we got to give ourselves some ease and grace as we're moving through these shifts. We know that this is a time of probably a huge shift, and we're going to feel like someday, like Friday, I almost felt defeated. Like I was just, and you might feel that way. It's okay. It's okay. Cause you know what? It's just a moment in time. It's not gonna last forever. Like Bev said, 2 minutes. Am I gonna die from this? No. And when I get caught up in some drama or I am feeling, off in my emotions, or I have awareness. I have a lot of awareness about myself. And my question to myself is, if I were to die right now, would this really matter? So if I'm being frustrated or angry about something, I'm feeling that way. I ask myself, if I was to die right now, would this really actually matter? And the answer has always been no. It's
I
not
like
that
that.
important. It's not that important. It's not so important to ruin my day, give so much time and energy to it, focus, conversation, all the things, because it's not really that important. My joy is more important. My lightheartedness, my happiness, my love, that's more important. So I typically tend to go to an extreme on things just to get my attention. And so I'm like, why am I doing this if this is not bringing me joy? So just finding what works for you. That might be a pretty harsh question to ask yourself, and it's okay. Don't use it. I'm not asking you to use it.
I'll
I'm
use
saying
it.
that's what works for me. And I've
I'll
asked
use it.
people,
I'll use it because it makes sense to me. It gets my attention.
yeah,
So it's like you were saying, those things that kind of spark your interest or catches it, like really resonates with you, resonates because that's how big of a deal it is, right? Does it really matter? And that's the extreme. So it's like putting that one extreme out there. Because if that happened, none of it would matter, and none of it. And
yeah.
it's like, so yeah.
And
So
if
I
I was to die if I was to die in this moment of feeling that frustrated and irritated and angry about something, is that how I want to die? Is that the last thing I want to experience before I take my last breath? Probably not. So that's what gets me through the experiences that are weighing me down. So,
awesome.
all right, friends. Well, there was a lot. So maybe watch this 2 or 3 or 4 times and be sure to talk about it. Have conversations about it because that helps you retain the information. It also opens up that conversation with other people. It gives them things to think about. It gives them things, tools maybe to help them. And without that conversation, they may not know about it. And sometimes it's just planting seeds for people who are seeking something different but don't know the direction to go. And then there's also, you could share our videos with them or content with them. And that's for any, podcaster or, videos that you watch, content you listen to. Share it with people who you think would be, it would be beneficial for. I do that quite frequently. So anyway, any final words, Bev, before we close out?
Make a magical week. We have a new month that start. I mean, when you guys see the video, it'll already be after the first, but we're going into a new month. It's a new day. So
Yeah.
Your perspectives get to be different. You don't have to hold on to the stories from yesterday, and you get to make new stories.
Yeah. Just take it as a moment, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
this moment, I can do something different. In this moment, I can do something. I just keep telling myself, in this moment, I can do something different. So just figuring out what that is for you. And the idea is for me is to do and be better within myself in as much as I can. And the other thing is to experience joy more often. And so recognizing how you can do that for yourself.
Nice.
So with that, sister, thanks for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amy and Bev. And we'll be back again next week, probably, most likely.
Probably. We'll see you then, maybe.
All right. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.